Education for the Global Schools program. So thrilled to have you all join us today. It would be wonderful if you can all put in the chat your name and where you are joining us from so we can see how global of a webinar we are going to have today. Very excited to welcome our speaker, but just some housekeeping. So please keep your microphone on silent for the duration of the webinar, just so that we can hear Ngozi properly. We will have a question and answer period at the end. So throughout the webinar, please feel free to put any questions in the chat box, any kind of insights or comments that you have for Ngozi, that would be wonderful. At the end, we will take a group photo, so we will ask that everybody turns on their camera for that. However, if you don't feel comfortable turning on your camera during the presentation, that is fine as well. But we would love to see everyone's faces while we take the photo. Without further ado, I am so thrilled to welcome our speaker today. We have Ngozi Awazi, sorry, Ngozi. Ngozi is a passionate teacher with more than 10 years of experience in the educational sector. Over the years, she has honed her skills in a variety of teaching and learning outfits, including curriculum design and implementation, coaching, counseling, and mentorship, educational technology, creative writing, and educational consulting. She is currently the head of primary school in Parkview International Kindergarten and School in Ikoyi, Lagos. Sorry again, Ngozi. She is a global schools advocate and mentor, and a bookkeeper, book creator ambassador. She's also a certified children and teenagers coach, inspiring young minds to find and achieve their purpose. As an educator and curriculum planner, she has a high success rate in integrating and implementing educational technology and practical sustainable development goals projects to aid effective teaching and learning, as well as creating awareness among the teachers around the sphere about effective ways to use technology and curriculum to increase productivity in a balanced manner for the good of the planet. Without further ado, Ngozi, I will turn it over to you. Please feel free to share your slides.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ngozi. I'm so excited to go through this process with you. Please, if you have any questions, put in the chat. Kendra will be more than willing to share this information with me. Basically, we will be working through this together. And of course, you can put any of your experiences in the chat that could basically help each of us, learn about how to do this better. I think the most important thing here is that we're trying to do the best for the young ones under our care and also for the planet as a whole. So I love technology. As you can see, I have a lot of Bitmoji pictures everywhere, so please forgive me. But basically, I see this as one of the best ways that I express myself, which is weird because I also believe in balance where technology is concerned. I also believe that there are some things that could not be done via technology when trying to teach children. And so one of the things we're going to be doing here today is to achieve that, is to find out, how to create that balance, basically. As you have already known, this is me, this is everything about me, so I'm just going to skip through that. A few more extra pointers is that this is going to feel like a lot, maybe, so brace yourself. You don't have to use all the tools that you see here. I just put in a lot of tools so that you can have a lot of options. I think that the popular saying is that less is more, and I still believe that less is more as well. Some of these things you would already be aware of. So if you do see something that you're aware of or you use in your class, feel free to share your ideas in the chat, and we would really love to hear your experiences as well. Try to join in the fun activities, and don't worry, you don't have to do a lot of writing. I'm going to share this book with you so you can have access to it. It is also hyperlinked with all the startup pages to the webs, like the web links, basically. So it's okay if you can't find it, you Googled it, you can find it. It's okay. I'm going to share this with you, and so you can click on the picture and you get automatic automatically linked to the site. So the first fun activity we're going to do is, who are we? So what would be your superpower if you were not a teacher? What would you do? Like if you were in teaching, if you were in working with children, what would you say is something that you've experienced or you've gained as a teacher that could help you in another field or to do something else? So let's see. For me, I think that I would be an event planner. I'd probably host children sleepovers. I don't know. I like planning and organizing and all of this. So I'd probably be an event planner. What about you? What do you think you would do if there was no such thing as teaching and you had to do something else? Kendra?
I think this is a great question. And everyone, please feel free to put your answers in the chat. I think for me, so I, ooh, maybe working with the Ministry of Education or something like that, working within government to make a change. I currently just work within the education and nonprofit sector. So I think that would be a great way to make change. Maybe do you want to read some of the answers in the chat? I see some
Sure,
great
sure.
ones.
Okay. Yay, I have some people who want to be event planners like me. There's an administrator running an NGO. Ooh, a spy. Emily, like, I have so many questions. Spy. Something creative and crafty, a counselor, a journalist. Wow, interesting. A doctor, a scientist, a masseuse. There are so many, so many. You have a lot of people trying to change the world and help in different ways. And I wanted to say that you don't have to not be a teacher to do these things. You can actually be these things for the children within your class. You can be these things for the people within your community as well. And I believe that teaching is one of the ways that I've found expressions for the different things that I love to do. Like I love to dance, so I brought it into my classroom. I love to counsel kids, so I bring it into my PSHE. I love movies. So most of my things within the class, the recent one that we're currently doing is Moana. And my children, like, they want to go back and watch it because they're like, I didn't see that. I didn't notice that. And so for me, I helped them to see how they can watch movies actively as opposed to passively watching these movies, because I love movies as well. So this is just something that I thought we should think about moving forward. And I think that this is very important because when we talk about the sustainable development goals, I think that sometimes we try to put it in a vacuum of its own, and it's not a vacuum on its own. It's like the reason why we have thousands and millions of advocates is because we have thousands and millions of personalities, and we have thousands and millions of talents. And so this is one way that you can use your unique personality to showcase yourself within the classroom to save and to help and to sustain our planet. So instead of looking at the SDGs as I have lesson plans that I have to pass on to the children, why can't we look at it as I have this personality and it to be a good perspective to helping my children understand how to save the planet? And guess what? They also have their own unique personalities as well. They have their own unique selves as well. And how can they tap into that, into those skills, into those scientific or counseling skills that they probably have within them to help the world develop its health and well-being, to help the world eradicate poverty, to help the world cure hunger, if there's a cure for hunger. You know, like, how can we put these things together to ensure that we are achieving the goals that we need to achieve? And so because of that, I divided today's conversation into 3 different, sectors. And so the first one is teaching philosophy. How can we discover the philosophy of our school, the philosophy of ourselves as teachers, and the philosophy of our classrooms? So if someone was to ask you, what is your teaching philosophy? Like, what's your core value? What's the most important thing for you when you want to teach in a classroom? What would you say that that is? So I'm going to ask Kendra again. For me, for me, I would say it's creativity. Like, I do not know how to survive in an environment where there is no creativity. I do not know how to do the same thing over and over again. So I'm always looking for new and better ways to make things work. So Kendra, what about you? What do you think?
I am actually going to steal. I see Marjorie's answer in the chat, and I think that is something I'm really passionate about is teaching students resiliency, that when life's adversity knocks them down, they got to keep uh, bouncing back and you know, stay strong and overcome their challenges. And I think that's really important when we're talking about ESD and SDG education. These are big challenges that we're going to face lots of adversity, but we got to stay strong and bounce back. All right, I see some good answers in the chat too. Ngozi, do you want to read some
Interesting.
of them?
Sure. I think I love the concept of resilience because also it allows the children to understand that a project doesn't have to happen like 2 weeks or 2 days, and that it requires a lot of like perseverance and it takes a lot of time. And I think that that is something that is actually missing in schoolwork when you teach schoolwork in isolation. I have some people here saying respect, innovation, growth mindset, globally minded, independence, empathy. These are all like amazing things, truly. That's different. I wanted us to explore. I believe that when you're engaged, I have like, and so it's whatever SDG goal. The question I always ask myself, because now they get bored easily, switch to a digital device, and that our inquiry or investigations within the classroom are active. Are you able to be accountable to your colleagues? Do they even know what they're going through? Or are they going through a process that has been carefully? How well are you able to reflect on how the learning is going on within the classroom? How well are your you have a very huge and amazing project. If the children, the whole thing, it kind of disappears as soon as the end result is achieved. In critical thinking, this project might be the only project, you know, that can the children decide or design a project that suits the activities that you're working with your children. Are they promoting thinking? Are they creatively designing things classroom? And how well are they working together as a team? Because sometimes but in terms of the collaborative pieces, how much of that work, how well are they integrating the things that they're learning within how their math or their English or their science or their art are stand the meaning behind the things that they're learning? How well are they adding that if we don't bring value or empathy, like someone said in the chat, juniors, is because they have no compassion, they have no care, they have no empathy. It's like care about anything. So how is care modeled in the classroom? Are we just, oh, you have to care about your planet? What does that really mean for them? Have we actually classroom to see what is the narrative behind empathy? What is really understand what it means to plant a tree or to care for the everyone says it's okay, everyone says it's good. We have to take care of our planet. Okay, that's the song everyone actually have things that they're passionate about. They have things that they care about. How do you, as the teacher, have in what you're teaching the children? Separate ourselves from our classrooms and we say, oh, okay, this is a project that, and we have to do this and we have to do that. And we try to be how much of personal interest do you have in what you're trying to ask in? How do you apply your interest, your voice, your children's interest? And when you're putting together a sustainable development goal project that you would like.
And Ngozi, sorry to interrupt you. I thought it was just me, but I think a couple of people are having difficulty. It seems like you keep cutting in and out. I wasn't sure if it was just my connection, but I feel like a few people are experiencing it in the chat.
Oh, wow. Can you hear me now? Can everyone hear now?
Yep. Can we get some thumbs up in the chat if things are going okay?
It keeps fading in and out. I thought it was because I switched from my phone to my laptop, but since it's maybe go on speaking. If it's better, I'll let you know.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
As we know, technology is a wonderful thing, but sometimes connection issues are an issue. But everyone, thank you for being patient and bearing with us. And Ngozi, keep going. We'll let you know if it cuts out again.
Please do. Saying that we have to actually ask ourselves this question: how accountable do they know? How well are they thinking? Am I good?
I think so.
It would better if you move closer to your mic.
The closest that I could get right now. Okay, hold on. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Which is weird because now you can hear me, but when I start, it starts to fade again. It's just weird.
It's actually
Okay,
fine now.
I don't think
exactly.
I think it's a bit of your network, but that's okay. We'll keep going. Worst case scenario, I think it can be better if video is off, or you can share your sides with me and I can share. But we'll continue on. Feel free to keep going.
Okay. So yes, always be active. Breathe through these questions to ask ourselves how much of in our SDGs. Also to understand that we don't actually has to be achieved in one day or in 1 week or in 1 month. We can work through over a period of time. Asking ourselves how much of this is going into what our children are learning. Us have authentic SDG processes important than the product. So the next question I'm sure that we ask a lot is, do you better in
Ngozi, I'm wondering, sorry, it's still breaking. I'm wondering if you send me your PowerPoint or your book, if I can share it, and then maybe that would help connectivity. Sorry, everybody, technical issues, but we don't want to miss any of this important content.
Okay.
While we're waiting to get this set up, maybe if anyone wants to share how some of their experiences or Ngozi was talking about different philosophies, if anyone wants to share some of the philosophies that they use with their students. And anybody feel free to raise your hand and
Okay, Emily has her hands up.
oh,
Oh, no, I really like one thing that just spoke to me from what you've been saying. And actually the legging's not bad. We're not missing content. It's just like skipping, but we're getting everything, I think. Was how do we teach children to care? I work with kids in Haiti, in a low resource school, and I work in a high resource school in Fukuoka, Japan, where I physically am. And in both scenarios, in both young groups of young people, it's like, how do you teach children to care about things? Because I mean, in general, they do, but like as a teacher, what does it look like? So I'm curious about what you're going to say about that. I like that question. So that wasn't really what you asked for, sorry, but those were my thoughts.
perfect. And Samreen, I think I saw your hand as well.
Speaking to the one.
Okay. All right. Ngozi, I think we are good. I can share the screen. Ngozi, are you still on the call? Sorry, everybody.
Yes, I just wanted to check if this was better.
It sounds like we can hear you well. Okay. All right. Ready to keep going. Here we go.
Okay,
How do I do this? Sorry.
uh, so just keep going like that.
Okay.
The arrow right, yes, perfect.
Okay.
Smaller joke. If you can go to the setting gear.
Here?
No, up. There's like the set of blue squares and then the blue. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And just click on that.
Okay.
And then you click the square.
We'll just go from here.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so now is it better? I had to switch the internet.
I think you're okay. You can continue.
Okay, so I was asking how you think the world will be in 2030. I think but I just wanted to know, do you think it's going to be the same, or do you think why? Like, if we can share our thoughts. Okay, someone says it'd be better. Go ahead.
Richard, go ahead. You have your hand raised.
Yeah, I think it will be a better world because if we continue at this level of engagement, sensitizing the bulk of people who would be in charge of so many things in the future, then we would have prepared them to make the world a better place while making our own contributions.
Okay, amazing. Dr. Nader.
Yes, good morning in your time and good evening in our time in Middle East. I'm really happy to attend this webinar. We need a lot of workshops to talk about how can we infuse SDGs and curriculum with STEM, because I really believe that this is our future, and we need to create our students, not local students, internationally or global students that care about issues, climate change, no poverty, no hunger, well-being, and good health. So I think this is our future, and yeah, we can do it, and we can make our world better and better. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, we have a lot of people who want to share today. Okay, let's have Afreen. I don't know if I got that right. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. That was right. Thank you, everyone. And it's good to be here back again on this forum. I just wanted to say that with a lot of SDGs awareness and the campaigns running around, and I am from Pakistan, having to see the awareness and the keen interest in students right from a very young age is very inspiring. And I believe if we continue at the same pace, definitely there will be very viable changes which we can witness long before 2030. And I believe the power of networking and the power of exchanging resources within the community adds a lot to defining the role we as an educator and we as the classroom practitioner plays into defining the roles. So I believe, yes, we are going to witness a great change in the future. Thank you.
Amazing. Okay, and I have so many answers here in the chat. I wish I could take everyone who has their hands up, but because of time and I don't want to keep you here, if you have answers in the chat, please just put them in there. Someone says it'd be better if we continue the SDG and ESD education. It would be better indeed because we are working and dreaming about the same. And I'm sure there's so many other different views, but the reason why I'm asking this question is also for us to look at how can we move through the three phases or the three phases of educating our children about the SDGs. So we basically have the content period where we get them to research, to come up with posters, to come up with, information and expressions and communications about the SDGs. And then we also have the phase where we get them to connect. So we have the content, then we have the connection. Here, the children are making connections between the things that are happening in global communities, the things that are happening in local communities, and they're trying to find out basically, what does this mean for me as a child? Like, what does this mean to me and for me at the same time? And I think that this is a very good phase to trickle to us, because usually if we're not very careful, we can keep our children in the content phase of making posters, doing debates, having talks, having conversations, but we also want them to make connections. We don't want them to look at it from an impersonal or formal point of view, but how can we get them to make connections with their reality? But I think the most important phase that I think we should start talking about is the create phase. And when I mean create, I don't mean in terms of like posters or, creating like an awareness work or things like that. But if we truly and honestly want to make a connection for our children, they have to start creating lifestyle choices. They have to start creating simple and small choices that they can use to promote their thoughts or their passions towards the SDGs. And so this is why I had this video there. Usually at the beginning of my class, when I started my global advocacy, I had my children watch this video, and I'm sure most of us are very familiar with this video already. It's very popular. And so I told my children, what challenges do you see? What makes you sad? What gives you the blues when you watch this video? And it's very interesting because there are different things that different people see when they watch this video. And there's this popular saying that the challenges that you're able to find, the blame or the issues that you always note, they're probably things that you were designed to solve. And so my children had different things like, oh no, the poor snake, or he's shooting everywhere, or too much paper. And the ones who don't like to write always find the paper first. Too much paper, there's just too much paper everywhere. And so because of that, they started to pick individual things that they were passionate about, and they would make a nice poster. What would we tell this man, about this thing that he's doing? And by the way, my kids are 5-year-olds. They're not adults. They're not in secondary school. They're not older kids. They are 5-year-olds. They're literally just coming out of the EYFS diaper. And so they would go like, oh, he shouldn't, cut the trees. There's so many trees. No more cutting the trees. And then I'll go, oh, but if there are no more trees, then there's no more paper. Where would we rise? What would we do? And so that conversation could lead into like making a nice poster about, what they think was ideal for that situation. But that's not where it stops. Then we move to the connect phase where we say, okay, these are all the SDGs that we have. Which ones do you think connects to this particular thing that you are very passionate about? And so at that point, if it's about the snakes, they're like, oh, life on land. And if it's about, the sea, they're like life underwater. But the good part about it is we have, let's say, 2 kids or 2 children who have the snakes, for example, but they have 2 different ideas of the SDGs that, connect to that. So one child is saying life on land, and the other child is saying like a consumption and things like that. And so they're like, no, it's this, no, it's that. And it's bringing really rich conversation in the class, because then they start to see that one good act doesn't just affect one area of the Sustainable Development Goals, and one bad act doesn't just affect one area, that it can actually be connected to different areas. And so they start to see that connection. And meanwhile, again, they're 5-year-olds. And so this is super amazing, because then sometimes I get them to like redesign, the poster, the SDG that they have chosen in a way that, a 2-year-old would understand. Like, this is just too serious. Let's make it a baby form, and let's make it, in an easier way. Let's give it a catchphrase that, when someone says it, we know what SDG the person is talking about. And we go on and on like this. I feel like this is a very good place to start from, in terms of just easing your children into it. You don't want them to memorize anything serious. You don't want them to start thinking of how a huge project will look like, but you just want them to be able to connect with the goals and see what it means for them as children. What do you think? Like, how are some ways that you would, introduce this to your children of different ages? And you can share this in the chat, and I can just take like 2 people speak up if it's possible, while Kendra helps me.
Yeah, sure. And I would just mention, if we don't play the video now, we will be sharing the slides with everybody. And so within the slides, you can actually play the video. So if you want to replicate this activity, as Ngozi described it, you can do that with your students. But maybe if we take a few ideas in the chat. Did you want to play the video, Ngozi, or we can just move on? No? Okay.
Yeah, I know I didn't want to play the video, but of course you're getting the book, so don't worry, you can watch the video on your own. So we can just move on to the next. Okay, we have someone sharing that they recently collaborated with a 17-year-old boy in North Carolina. He's the founder of the Environmental Drones, and he's mentoring the students. And they're opening a new chapter in Spain. The students are very motivated because they're combining technology with SDGs. Amazing. So another lovely thing that I do with my children is I make them decide what is the order of importance for the SDGs. Like, we have 17 of them. Which one is the most important? And then they have to order them from the most important to the least important. And you have to see how my class goes. It's like they're arguing, they're asking, oh no, it's this one, because if there is none of this, there will be none of this, and if there's none of this, there'll be none of it. But no, the poor animals would die. But no, it's like a very emotional roller coaster of an event within my class. And it's really interesting to see, because even if you had a child in the class who wasn't interested before, because they want to be a part of the conversation, they build interest in it. And then they start to look for, what is important, exactly what is important for them and what is not important for them. The diamond ranking is a kind of tool. It's the fact that you put like the most important, the next two important, next three important, and then you keep, going in that order. Of course, I can also put that in the book for you so you see how that looks like. But, they put that in, and it's very important to see that it gets them really all riled up. And so eventually we end up at a place where we say, so you see how difficult it is to determine which one is more important. It just simply means that they all are equally important, in one way or the other. Sometimes we agree to that. Sometimes some people just agree that, you know what, my teacher just doesn't get how important it is to save the planet in terms of the trees, in terms of the ocean. But the most important thing there is I can also see and, utilize what is important to each child. And so then I can start to find ways to, build their curiosity in those areas that they have held so dearly to themselves. Yes, my classroom sounds fun. It is very fun, interestingly. And so when I'm able to build that philosophy within my class, I can then move on to strategies. What teaching strategies can I explore to help these children learn this? But more importantly, so that it is not a stress on my curriculum, it is not a stress on the things that I'm supposed to do with them. I do not tell the parents at the end of a PTC meeting that, oh, your child didn't learn the statutory requirements because we were doing SDG stuff. No one wants to hear that, okay? So I had to sit down to say, what does this feel like for me? And so that is those are some of the things that we're going to explore right now. I work as an English teacher, and I did this activity last week with my teenagers and they loved it. Yes, it's always fun. Children love to argue by design. I think humans love to argue by design. So when you put up something there where they have to showcase how much they know, it's always engaging. It builds critical thinking, because I always scaffold how to argue as a skill in my class. So I would say, you can't say no, yes, no, yes. You have to say why. So I don't think it's that because, or you have to give a reason why you're doing this. And for you to be able to give a reason, you have to think about it, right? You have to process it. You can't just say, because that's what I want to say. It's not going to be counted as a point for you. So yes, this is like super important as well. So if we move on to the next slide. Yes, thank you. And so in that way, I wanted to share some of the things that I use to build these strategies to help inform this. And if you notice that I have this team I have been working with teachers on for years. And because I always have this question where teachers ask you, how can I be creative? I don't know how to be creative. I've tried, but creativity is just so hard for me. And so I came up with STEAM because I feel like it's like a checklist for creativity. The S standing for like stories. Like if you want to be creative, think of stories that light up your life, that light up the children's lives, and think stories are always a good way to start. And when you're telling stories, of course, by now I know we're not just sitting in front of the classroom and reading a story. We can role play while reading a story. Like this lovely book that we had in Nigeria here, Cobb the Antelope by Alabi, Mrs. Alabi, I think. And so that book was about an antelope that, kind of moved away from his mom and got trapped by a fox, I think. And so that animal, the fox cat told him the different things he was going to use, the different parts of his body to do. He's going to take out his teeth. He's going to make a necklace. He's going to take out his fur. He's going to make this. And so eventually, he wasn't telling Cobb, but he was thinking it out loud in the book. And so eventually Cobb runs away and finds his mom. And so when we read that book, I was the fox, the animal, the villain in this story. And my children were Cobb the antelope. So there was this phrase that would say, come, follow me, follow me. So they would follow me at the back, like that. And then I would say, I'm going to do this. And they'll say, okay, I'm going to do that. They're going to say, okay. But then eventually when Cobb runs away, they say no. And then we were able to explore this in different ways. Like, what does that mean in terms of like, PSCD, in terms of like social emotional, like what do you do when you follow a stranger? What are you supposed to do? Do you talk to strangers? Do you talk to people who try to take you away from family? Then we went on to say, what were the different parts of the body that he used, and how does it affect our planet? What happened to that animal? Cobb's mom is looking for him. How could we help? How could we help her find him? We make posters everywhere, missing person, wanted person. And we explore like different ways within that story, and the children were so excited. And then they even designed a character profile. Like, how would you describe Cobb so that people could find him? So they used his physical look, like he looks like this, he looks like that. And then he's a risk taker because he went off with a fox. Like, who does that? And he's reflective because now he's thinking of, running away, and he's calling for help. And so they were able to explore these different things and then look into, most importantly, to have empathy for the animals. So you see, the animals can't talk back to you right now, but this is ways that they could be feeling when they're being, kidnapped or taken and used for one or two different things. And so the children use that to connect to, I would always ask this question, which SDG is this connected to? And they would look up, at the display in the class and say, oh, I think this is connected to this, or this is connected to that. So I don't start a class saying, we're going to learn about SDG 13. And it means this and that and that, and we're going to do that and that. No, I teach my normal lessons, but at the end of the day, there's always a message connected to an SDG that they are trying to be passionate about. And I was like, okay, this particular situation, which SDG is it connected to? Like recently with our Moana, we looked at how the earth was dying because the heart of Tafiti was taken away from her. And so the question was, what could represent the heart of Tafiti right now that is taken away from people? And so they came up with so many things like, oh, they're cutting down all the trees, and they're doing this and they're doing that. And I said, okay, what SDG is this connected to? Oh, it's connected to that, and it's connected to that, and it's connected to that, and it's connected to that. And so whenever they watch another movie, or whenever they see another story, or whenever they watch another screenplay, they're always going to be asking themselves, how is this connected to where I'm living right now? What SDG is this connected to? And they're always going to ask that question, because these are the questions that I keep asking whenever we read a news story, and things like that. We're like, okay, how is this connected? Like the story Something Else, I would ask them, what could be something else? What could be, a representation of something else in our world right now? Or okay, the fact that boys are not the same as girls, or the fact that all the boys want to play together and the girls want to play together, and they don't want to play with us because they say we're boys and they say they're girls. Imagine how many playtime problems you can solve with this. Like, it's so many. Like, there's so many playtime problems that I've solved within my classroom just using the stories and this question. And so I'm like, okay, so what is this connected to? Oh, gender equality, or this or that. And then we bring all of these things up through storytelling. And I spent all of this time just in storytelling. So you can imagine all the things that you can do with the other aspects of STEAM, with your science and your experiments. My children are always exploring the world using their senses. That is like the best way to teach adjectives. What did you see? What did you smell? What did you hear? What did you taste? I'm always asking these questions when they have to describe something. And it's super, important for the children to see the differences and the similarities within that and connect it to the goals. So now we've got them all riled up using our stories, using our senses, using our English or language. For example, 2 weeks ago, I figured out that Moana actually has a French version called Viana. And I never knew, you know. So when I brought it up, the French young lady in my class said, "Oh, that's Vienna, that's Vienna, that's Vienna." And so she was super excited, and she got to explain part of it in French to me as well. And it was really, really amazing to see that she felt like a part of the classroom, because finally there was something that she knew about. She was not in a strange school where they teach only English and they only talk about English things. And it works as well for like mystery, for math, for classroom management, the use of technology, and even art as well. I can give you an example of one that we did for art where I showed the children 3 different pictures of 3 different landscapes, and they were supposed to sort and group those landscapes by, you know, what their senses, what they saw, what they would smell if they were there, you know, what kind of things they would eat and things like that. And we used the Venn diagram to look at these things. And by the way, this was capital letters and full stop sentences. So instead of giving children regular pictures and saying, oh, make sentences with this, put your capital letters and put your full stops in, I give them 3 pictures and then I say, what did you notice about them? What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? And then they make sentences about those. So these are meaningful sentences for them. It's not just about, you know, doing a repeated mindless work of like 100 sentences every day to build our English skills, but now they're making sentences by making connections. And it also kills the conversation of, I don't know what to write. I don't know if you've ever asked children to make sentences. They're like, I have no idea. I do not know what to write. I don't know what to come up with. And it's very frustrating for both the child and the teacher, you know, when you're in that kind of situation. And so my children did that. They came up with sentences, still talking about this Moana thing that we're doing. I made the children talk about the different sustainable development goals that are connected to the different landscapes. And they had to caption that with sentences. And I got my capital letters and my full stops in. I got my adjectives in as well. I got like basically all the things that I need to do. And guess what? One of the things I noticed when I teach the SDGs is I do not have to explain those skills overly too much like I would have done if I was just teaching this skill as a class. You know, you just have to keep explaining because they just never get it because it doesn't make sense. But when you create meaning for them, like when you're putting things in like, oh, describe this, we're going to use different words to describe it, and we're going to use our senses. Oh, it's noisy, it's hard, it's soft. Okay, so you know what you're doing here, children? You're using adjectives. Adjectives are things that you use to describe things like that. So let's come up with some more. And sometimes we design like adjectives around the picture and they're super excited and they get it in one lesson, as opposed to starting with, today we're going to talk about adjectives. Adjectives are words that we use to describe things. Can you give me some examples? And you know how that goes. So let's see, what other strategies could you use, you know, within your classroom? Like what strategies are you using that is working out for you right now in your classroom? And I'm waiting for that to come in. I just wanted to share you on the second page, I have like pictures of letters that the children wrote. So one of the things that we did was we got the children to write letters. We wanted to donate certain things to a community that was in need. And so for my English class lesson, I made them write a letter because we were learning about letter writing. So instead of writing a letter just to write a letter to learn the skills and all of that, they started to work towards writing a letter that they were going to add to the care packages that they would give to those children. And they were super excited about it. Like they wanted to know how it started. They wanted to know how it ended. They wanted to make sure it was done properly because, you know, they wanted those children to read it and feel, you know, loved in such. So I didn't have to stress any child to do any writing. I didn't have to complain or ask any child to sit up and write properly. Everyone was doing everything right because they wanted their letters to go out to this people that they have never met before, but they wanted to touch their lives. And that is one of the things that I've noticed, that when you attach a meaning to a learning goal or curricular standard, it makes it very super amazing to absorb for the children. I don't know, Kendra, there's some questions coming in. I'm just trusting that you're noting them because like I've been talking and they've just been going and I
Yeah, all good. Just one thing to address. One question is, can we have a copy of the presentation? It's very helpful. It is very helpful. And go see. Yes, we will be sharing it with everybody.
Yes, we will. So I wanted, Kendra, if you can help me play the video in the middle, because like that's the only video I wanted us to look through. So this is a project that I did with my children, the very first book project that we did. We had children struggling to be interested in writing and reading. And so we decided that since we're a small school and we wanted them to come out of the bubble feeling like, oh, they are a part of like a huge community, we decided to tell them that they would be working with 2 other schools in an inter-school project to design a book that they could sell to help children. So this is really like a video to showcase that. Is your audio off?
Sorry, Ngozi? Can everybody hear it?
No.
No? Okay, I might need to reshare with audio.
Sorry, we couldn't hear what you.
Yeah, let me.
Not at all audible.
How do I share with audio? Share sound. Perfect. Okay. Sorry, everybody. And here we go.
It's Kiss baby.
Everything is funny if you can laugh at it.
Look out, cause here we come. We're stomping our feet, we're done. Look out, cause here we come. We're stomping our feet, we're done. Look out, cause here we come. We're stomping our feet, we're done. Look out, cause here we come. Here we come, here we come.
Let it out, try it out, spray it out, spray it out. Laughing is contagious. Free therapy, bring it on, spread some. Laughing is contagious. It doesn't matter where you at. Laughing is a real fine art. Positive energy.
It's book for laughs and book for best homework.
If you laugh at it, everything is funny if you laugh at it. If you feel it and you want it, just pure happiness. So everything is funny if you laugh at it. Everything is funny if you laugh at it. Everything is funny if you laugh at it. If you feel it and you want it, just pure happiness. So everything is funny if you laugh at it. Look out, cause here we come. Everything is funny if you laugh at it. Feel it and you want it, just pure happiness. So
Share up, let's have some fun. Tell Mr. DJ, make we turn on the microphone. We will make some magic, something we can't imagine. Give me some chocolate, keep modulate, keep my best pretty coke.
Sorry, go about that walk. When you laugh to me, no say I love am. Sometimes life is full upside down. Don't say you laugh, take your my out. Anything I buy, say I buy for 2. Anything I buy, say I buy for you. We can laugh, be my friend, cause I cherish you. Yeah, I know feel life for you.
everything is funny if you laugh at it. Everything is funny if you laugh at it. If you feel it and you want it, just pure happiness. So everything is funny if you laugh at it. Everything is funny if you laugh at it. Everything is funny if you laugh at it. If you feel it and you want it, just pure happiness. So everything is funny if you laugh at it. Look out, cause here we come. We're stomping our feet, we're done. Look out, cause here we come. We're stomping our feet, we're done. Look out, cause here we come. We're stomping our feet, we're done. Look out, cause here we come. Here we come, here we come.
It's fun. Laughter is a therapy. Laughing out, make yourself happy.
Really long
Smile on your face, cause laughter makes you feel good.
Life is short, so please smile while you have teeth.
back over to you,
Okay.
Ngozi.
Okay. Um, don't worry, all permissions have been asked. I think that I actually wanted to show you this because I also wanted to see how it actually started as a small project. We were looking for a way to get the children excited about the world that is around them. And so we told them to write a story or to write a group of stories so that we could put it up. We had like this huge, what do we call it now? A thermometer in the class where we would color in how many stories we'd written that we put together to make a book. And we worked with children from like 2 or 3 different schools. We would meet with them every time. We would come up with the stories. We would talk about it. We voted about which cause we would like to help in terms of, do we want to help a school? Do we want to help to help build a permit shelter? And there were so many things, and the children voted, they wrote the stories, they sold the book themselves, and eventually we put the money together to help that school. And we even had parents donate even more than we expected, so we were able to renovate that school, which was not the original plan. So I just think that this could be one way of explaining going big, you know, if you wanted to go big with your children. And these were 5 to 7-year-olds. So they weren't old kids. They weren't children who knew how to write or to read. We weren't looking for basic creative wonder. I think that's what I'm looking for. But we just wanted the children to find love in literacy and things like that. So if we move on to the next slide, because I can see that time is far spent. So I think that one question I wanted to ask, which I'm not sure if we still have time for, was how would this look like or sound like or feel like just within the classroom if you weren't doing something big or huge? Because even in our groups, in our WhatsApp groups, for example, we see like something huge, you know, someone's changing the world in this part and that part and that part. And we hope we could do that as well. But it's like, I can do any of this. Like, this is very huge. Like I was telling Kendra before you all came in, that is so huge and I can't do this. And it's just a lot, basically. But there are smaller goals that you can achieve within your classrooms. It doesn't have to be something huge or big. My children, for the end of this Moana, they're going to be making a podcast. They decided that they think that we are going to work on good health and well-being because they believe that everyone is talking about health, but no one talks about well-being in terms of like mental health, in terms of like emotional health. And so we were exploring the different challenges that Moana went through and, you know, how her mental well-being or her emotional well-being kept changing as she faced every new challenge. And we talked about what was a support system for Moana at this period in her life. And we looked at her grandmother. And this was a way to bring in our social studies lesson on the family. And so they looked at the different members of Moana's family and how her grandmother was a support system for her, even though all the rest of her family members loved her, but they didn't really understand what her call was. And so the children looked at people in their family that could support them, people that are always there for them, and, you know, how that can help their well-being or their mental health and things like that. And so, again, my kids are 5-year-olds. So I keep putting a disclaimer because I know that when I keep talking, you start to experience, you know, a change in the age of the children in your head because, you know, of all the things that they're doing. But I remind you that they're 5. They're 5-year-old children. And if they can do that, it means that the SDGs can be done within any classroom. It doesn't have to be a classroom of older children. It can be done in like truly and honestly any classroom in a child-friendly way. So the Global Schools Advocate, they have lovely materials and lesson plans that you can use. And one issue that I did have was I thought that you would need to use them in isolation away from your lesson plans. But what I do is I take those lovely ideas and I add them into my lesson plan format because I think that those ideas, Kendra is here, she can tell me if I'm wrong, I think that those ideas were placed there for the idea's sake, not for the entire lesson's sake. Like, I'm not sure that there's any law that you have to start it and end it the way it is written there, but that you can go through it and say, oh, I can apply this to my age group. I can apply this. I can use this part of it. I can use that part of it. And that way you're not starting from the scratch, but you're basically working through different ideas that have already been given to you, but in a way that suits your own situation. So I have someone saying it looks like initially very challenging, bringing discomfort for the teachers and the students, but ultimately rewarding and gratifying. Yes, and this is why I put the fun part there. I put the fun part there so that I don't get to feel the stress that goes into the planning. But truly and honestly, it does require a lot of planning. But when you execute it, you're like, I'm going to do this again. This is so amazing. Like, I'm going to, put this in place again. So if we move on to the next slide.
Yeah, and Ngozi, just a time check. We have about 10 to 15 minutes before we move on to the question answer period.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to go really fast, Kendra. You're going to go with me with this. Okay, but the good part is these are the expressions. So the next question I ask myself after asking what my philosophy is and what strategies I'm using, how can I get them to express themselves? And this is where
Ngozi, if you just want to pause, I think
EdTech
you're
comes into place.
Oh, there you go. You're good. Sorry.
Because with it's okay. I don't know. Maybe it's because
No, it was your
coming to the
network, but
end
I think
or something.
you're back. No, you're good. It was just your network. You can keep going.
Okay. So we have Teaching Sparks. If you go to Teaching Sparks, you will see so many storybooks, because I know that one problem I had was which stories will I use within my class. So Teaching Sparks, if you click on that when you get the book, you would see that there's so many stories there that help for different reasons or for different things. And so if you're looking for a good story to tell your children, that would be one place to start looking. Empathico is also another lovely site. It helps you build social emotional learning with your children. It helps you build empathy with your children. And it's also a good site if you want to connect with another classroom, anywhere else in the world. It's like you want your children to connect with another classroom, get to know them, get to learn together with them. Empathico is a lovely place. You click on the link, you see the process. It's super easy. I do not know if there's anyone that uses Empathico in the house, but it's really lovely. You get a list of classes or a list of schools that have agreed to use it, and you can pick the one within your time zone and reach out to the teacher there, and then they would be willing to connect, with your class depending on the conversation. But if you're not using it for that, they have already pre-made lessons on like empathy, saying your magic words and things like this. And they can give you like very good ideas to bring in the social emotional connections to your SDG explorations. So if we go on to the next page, we have Book Creator. Yay, we have someone using Empathico. Great. We have Book Creator. Book Creator is so amazing because I have never seen a set of children love to make books. So writing can be very stressful for children, especially if they have to make books. But imagine if they had a place where they could put pictures. They have like magic drawer where they are trying to draw something and it tells them what it looks like. Imagine if they had a place where they could type, they could voice text. My kids are younger, so they get very stressed with spelling. So when I want them to design a book that would help one of my SDGs, I will tell them to voice the text. So they would read, you put the microphone on and say the story, and it types it for them as well. So if your goal is not creative writing at that period, this is a very good way to do that so that your children are not stressed with the burden of writing. And then of course we have animated draw. I actually wanted to show you animated draw. Kendra, can you please help me click on the picture animated draw? This is so amazing because your children can draw pictures and this application will bring those pictures to life. Like they could see their drawn pictures walking, dancing, you know, and doing things like that. And it makes them so proud to design their animations, you know, because they know that my teacher is going to put it on animation draw and it's going to move. Because of time, I can't show you how that works. But when you get the book, please open it and see. It's very also easy to use. We have Canva. I use Canva for my children. We actually group create posters for our walk. If we wanted to do an awareness walk, if we wanted to do a thing in during our assemblies, yes, that's where I was going. If we wanted to make like a poster for our assembly and things like that, we always use Canva for that. Okay, all right, that's not funny. Yes, so time for kids is also a very amazing thing. I think the reason why I picked time for kids was because I was looking for a place where the children could learn about things that are happening around them, but in a less aggressive way, like the news would, you know, present it. And so time for kids is a place where they project things happening around the world in a very child-friendly way. So if you wanted your children to be aware of, you know, climate change or like things like that, it's written in a way that is not too aggressive or violent for the children or scary. And so they get the information that they need, and you can use it as an authentic way to design a learning experience for them. Diffit is something that I recently came across. I do not know if anyone is using Diffit. Diffit is so amazing because it generates comprehension questions for children. So if you wanted a comprehension question on climate change, you can go on Diffit, you can type climate change, you can set the grade, maybe grade 2 or grade 3 or grade 4 like that. And it will come up with a nice comprehension text about climate change with questions, multiple choice, short answers, open-ended questions, everything. You know, I think comprehension questions are like the most stressful thing. And this is the reason why teachers use textbooks, because it's like, oh, am I going to think about this? Am I going to come up with this? But Diffit does it all for you. Like you can come up with an idea. I designed comprehension questions for my children on Diffit about Moana. Like it was that serious. Now, one thing I did find out was the comprehension text about Moana was very nonfiction like. So what did I do? My children are 5-year-olds, so I just needed 7 sentences basically about Moana. So I typed out 7 sentences. Moana can sail a boat. Maui helped Moana, like that, 7 sentences. And I copied and I pasted it on Diffit. And then it generated questions for me about it. Like I didn't even have to think of what kind of questions to ask. It has different categories. Do you want basic comprehension? Do you want extended questions? Like basically whatever kind of question that you want, it gives to you. So we go on to the next one. Story starters is also about like, you know, coming up with story ideas for your children. I think that is super interesting for them because when we use story starters, it gives you like random things, like a pig went fishing with a dog. And so whenever we wanted to do an SDG warm-up, we would use this story starters. It would give you the weirdest sentence. And then we would say, what SDG solution could be to this or something like that. And they would just connect it. They'll be like, a pig went fishing with a dog. Okay, that looks more like into the animal, you know, situation and things like that. And so basically the reason why I was doing that was just basically for them to make a connection between the things that happen around them, no matter how crazy or weird or odd it is, and the SDG goals. So they're just always thinking about it and just thinking about saving the planet. I have parents talk to me every day that when they turn on the tap too long, their kids are like, no, the planet. because I make them sleep, drink, and think about it all the time, that anywhere they go, all they're seeing is the planet. And I think that this is a good place for me to end, because I believe that the most important thing is not about the large projects or the posters and the awareness that we do with the children. The most important thing is, how is this helping them individually? They're going to grow up to become adults. Are they going to still care about the planet then? Or are they going to, leave school and like, okay, that was one cute thing I did as a child, and now I'm moving on to serious things. So the most important thing is, as much as we want to help the world, we should also think about how to help the child right in front of you right now. Like, is that child thinking about ways to promote a healthy planet in their individual lives? Because sometimes we have children doing posters and creating awareness, but at home, they're still wasting water. At home, they're still, doing whatever it is that they do, because for them, it's a cute project that we do in school, and that's basically it. But the question I always ask myself is, what does this mean for the child sitting in front of me right now? Because if I can get that child sitting in front of me to make healthy choices and to save the planet in a healthy way, they can also get the people around them to do the same thing. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Ngozi. I think this was such an incredible presentation in that, first of all, you provided so many practical examples and resources that we can all use in our classrooms. And you showed us that, we don't need to do a lesson solely on, SDG 13. There's different ways that we can incorporate this into everyday lessons, different subjects, and especially different grade levels. One of the most common questions that we get from our advocates is, I'm an ECE educator. How do I do, really important ESD lessons with kindergarten students? And you've given us some really great tangible examples. So that was absolutely wonderful. We do have about 10 to 15 minutes for question and answer. So everybody, if you haven't asked a question, if you want to put it in the chat, and let's get started. First of all, I saw one question, Ngozi, about somebody was very appreciative of the resources that you shared, but they were wondering if they are free for all educators to use. So if you can just speak to that, whether you need accounts to access them, if you can just speak to that for a moment.
Okay, amazing. I just quickly want to go through, and most of them I tried to make sure that they were all free resources. So Time for Kids is free, Story Starters is free, Different is free right now. Yes, they're basically all free. Book Creator has a free account that you start with, but if you want to make more than 40 books, then you probably have to pay for it. I think that's the same with Canva. It's like free bot. Book Creator and Canva have like that free bot, but the rest are free. Empathical is very free. Diffit is very free. Like, I try to stay within free resources so that it'd be easy for you to use. There's so many other resources as well, but these ones I made sure were free.
Perfect. Thank you. And again, we will be sharing this, both a recording of this video or this webinar, as well as the incredible book that Ngozi put together. And as you could see, all of those resources were just links away. So if you click on the icon of that particular resource, you can access it. Another question that I'm seeing in the chat, Ngozi, is what were the challenges you faced when you started implementing SDGs, and how did you overcome it? Well, that is a big question, but why don't you take it away?
Okay, so it's a bit tricky in the sense that when I started, my school was already running an inquiry model in terms of teaching and learning. But one of the problems that we had was that we didn't have children take authentic actions at the end of our concepts. When we had like this huge theme, I know everyone has like the theme that your school is doing, but the question is, after that huge theme, what happens after? Like, what do the children do after that? And this is the reason why we started to infuse the SDGs. So the SDGs became the meaningful action that the children did at the end of that huge under the sea theme that you do, or that animals and people theme or whatever huge theme that you put into place in your schools, what exactly was the point of all of that when the children go through all the resources and never do anything with it? One of the challenges that I faced though was trying to educate my teachers, my fellow teachers within the school, and also the parents on the importance of what the children are doing. Like, imagine you're a parent and your child comes home and says, "We watched Moana." You what? Like, you did what? In school? Like, are we joking here? Like, it was like I had to always, create a lot of newsletters and pre-information for the parents so that they don't go into panic attacks anytime they hear things from their children. So that was an extra, work that I had to put into place to make sure I didn't have parents coming angrily into school saying, what is going on? Also, we always targeted like small projects that would make the greatest impact, because sometimes I know that we desire, to save the whole world. Like, you're coming out of your house and you're seeing all the problems and you really want to be a part of the solution. But we, instead of facing that challenge, we started to ask ourselves, what can we do one solution at a time or one child at a time? So it might not be a huge solution, like maybe there's this imaginary temperature thing in the earth that when we make a huge whatever, it goes down and you're like, yes, I made an impact. It might not be that huge, but the greatest impact that I am making, which is the focus that I had to tell myself, was that I'm changing a child's mentality. Like someone said, there is a mindset shift. So even if we're doing all of these projects, this is not the real reason why I'm going through all of this. I'm going through all of this because I am making a mentality or a mind shift in a child so that when they grow up and they're old enough to be able to do something about it, they will do something about it. I think that was the first thing. And the second thing, I am not raising the children for tomorrow. They are not the leaders of tomorrow. I'm raising them to be human beings now in the present. And so this is making phenomenal change in who they are now as a person, not who they are going to be in 14 years. And I think that is one thing that we're raising the leaders of tomorrow. Great. That is not bad at all. But who is the child in front of you now? What mindset do they have? And how can that evolve over time? So I think that a good perspective or a focus shift would be very good for you, so that even if you create huge projects and they don't succeed like you want them to, you know that the whole process was not just for the project, it was for that child in front of you. So yeah.
Okay, so Ngozi, another question is, so Sarah raised a bit of a comment and then a question. So she says, I was in a discussion that was rather disheartening. Some educators feel that we focus so much on the problems we face, and this already builds anxiety and disappointment for children when looking at the future. What are your thoughts on this subject? So, what are your thoughts in that, focusing on some of the SDGs can cause some overwhelming or some anxious thoughts among students and educators. What would be your response? Go ahead. Sorry.
I think that the perspective, I think it falls back to perspective and focus. My children are 5-year-olds, like I keep saying, and it's very important how these things are projected to them, because we don't want them to have nightmares. So it's not a function of projecting the problems in the world. It's a function of building problem solvers. So if they see this as continuous problems that they can solve one way or the other, it changes or it shifts the mentality behind it. I feel that sometimes, because we want people to care for the planet, we focus too much on the problems because we want to build enough fear that would force them to take care of the planet. But for me, my focus is not the fear, but the love for the planet, and it's like, if you love the planet so much, these are things that we can do to help it stay healthy. Okay, so it's not about showing them countless of videos or pictures about the planet dying that would help them to save the planet. However, if I do want them to make significant change in the planet, then I have to look at it from a perspective of love. I'm not going to litter because I love my planet. I want it to be a place where I can live in, where I can be healthy, where I can, be happy, And if you place it from that point of view, it shows a person the problem and without the function of the fear, but more of a function of love. Like, we're doing this because of love. We're doing this because this is a place that we love, we enjoy, and we want to keep healthy at all times. And I think that, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's basically the perspective that I always project this from.
Perfect. Thank you, Ngozi. We have another question from Moses, and Moses says, excuse me, sorry. I would like to ask, what approach do you use to make sure even learners with special case gets the content? Moses, just to clarify, do you mean learners with special needs? Yes, please. Okay, so Ngozi, in your experiences, have you ever worked with children with disabilities or children with special needs? And if so, how do you make sure that they also internalize and adapt or adopt the concepts that you're teaching?
So I currently have a child with in this situation in my classroom, and she's actually autistic. So I work a lot with her therapist on how well to help her build this understanding. The truth of the matter is that she's in her stage of her learning, and we're trying to get her to where she needs to be. However, we understand that she's at a period where she's absorbing right now, but she cannot showcase the things that we to help us understand that she's absorbing. It's just like having a newborn child, truly and honestly. It's like you're speaking, you're singing, you're talking to the child, but the child isn't saying a word back to you. So you cannot project your own frustration on that child to say, oh, I don't know if you're listening or not. Like, it's so frustrating that you're not giving me back. You have to continue to do that from a place of love, to continue to give and to share and to use stories and songs, because like she loves songs. So we always come up with like, what song or what digital tool or video do we have that she can be able to express this with. And yes, of course, they love nature, they love the beauty of the environment. And so we always come up with songs. Like, it was just this week that my child started, saying the word, like she would see the picture and say, oh, Moana, planet, and like, I've been teaching this for 5 weeks now. And I just got like my first word this week that passed. And I was like, yes, you do it. So some of us may never get that yes moment, but it's about the faith and just keep, giving, to keep giving, and knowing that somehow she's absorbing, but she's not yet capable to give back to you. You don't stop because you're not receiving. You have to keep giving in different ways and, hoping that one way will sink in. So I don't know, that's just my personal experience.
Thank you, Ngozi. Sarita is asking about the snake video. So yes, we will be sharing the entire book that Ngozi used as her presentation, and that video would be available within it. Ngozi, I have a question for you. So a lot of our advocates, another question that they always come to us and ask is, some of them may be in teaching in low resource settings where maybe they don't have access to internet or technology. And I know that you are joining us from Nigeria. And so, this might be a common experience within your local context. So in what ways would you provide advice to these advocates if they are teaching in low resource settings? How can they still implement some of these really important lessons if perhaps they don't have the resources to play the snake video or to access Canva or some of the other resources? Do you have any recommendations or things for teachers in low resource settings?
Okay, so DIYs are actually the ways that I started, was one of the ways that I started as a teacher. Like, I would DIY like every and anything. I don't know if any of us knows have heard about this Ikorodu Boys thing that's happening where they DIY the production of movies that were made by like American organizations, stuff like that, and they would post that on Instagram. But the most important thing is that I even think that the greatest resource right now that we have are in this low tech places, because there's no such thing that's more important than how we learned to like cook in the sand and to like, you know, make things. And it builds so much creativity for the teachers and even the children, because we had to come up with ways to use resources that are around us. You know, in my class right now, my children, they store any resource, like they store empty bottle caps, they store like cartons from home, they bring in like cartons, they bring in so many things, and then we use them for a lot of DIY situations. I think that one period in my class, we decided that all our Christmas decorations were going to be made out of junk materials, like recycled materials, like the entire classroom. So our trees were made out of plastic bags. We cut them out into strips and then we like weaved them into like a tree. We had like balls made out of like squashed paper that we had taped and colored and painted. And so we wanted to see what our classroom would look like, if it would still be prettier if we had these resources, you know, used around us. And we didn't buy any of the recycled materials, because that's another thing. We have recycled materials that people buy. No, we got these recycled materials from our houses, around the school and things like that. And so they would come to school every day. I found a shell, I found this, I found that. And we do not know how we're going to use any of these things, but we stock them like hoarders. And when it was time to design the classroom, they were coming up with the most amazing ideas. We could hang the shells on the string, you know, we could glitter them, we could do this, we could do that. And so I believe that working with your children, partnering with your children to find DIY materials around you is very, very important. In fact, I feel like it's very, very resourceful, because now the technology that is coming out in the world now is how to make use of recycled materials to still be able to produce electricity, to produce this, to produce that. So it's not about just getting what is already there, but using what is being discarded to create magic around the world. So yeah, that is my take on that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ngozi. We are just about out of time, but there were a few questions in the chat that I feel like were kind of directed to global schools. So I just want to speak to them. There was one question about how to incorporate SDGs within mathematics subjects. I will just say, please stay tuned. We are hoping to have another webinar in the next month or two related to how to incorporate ESD, Education for Sustainable Development, within STEM, primarily within science and mathematics subjects. So I would say hold that question, and hopefully you can attend that future webinar. Another question was, can all the resources or the recording from today and the book that Ngozi shared with us be shared with everybody? So yes, if you are a Global Schools advocate or alumni, we will be emailing you. And I recognize there are a few people on the call who are not in our program. We welcome you. We're thrilled that you could join us. We will share the materials with everybody who registered for the webinar. For those of you who are not part of the Global Schools program, whether you're not a current advocate or an alumni of the program, just to speak a little bit about the advocacy program, it is a 6-month training program for teachers that we run once or twice a year. And we teach you all about how to incorporate ESD within your classrooms and school-wide communities. We are currently in a cohort, so we aren't accepting currently new admissions, but we will likely have a new cohort the beginning of 2024, and applications will likely be launched end of 2023. So thank you, Sarah, for in the chat sharing our website. You can follow us on social media or our website website to see when the next round of applications opens up. So with that, I did mention at the beginning of the call that I would love to take a photo of everybody. So if you do feel comfortable, I would recommend please turning on your cameras, and we will take a photo. So if everybody can turn on your cameras, just give me one moment. Okay, so there are three screens of people joining us on the call. So I will need to do 3 photos. But for the first photo, everybody smile. Okay. Next screen. Smile. Okay, and last screen. If everyone can still stay smiling. Sorry, everyone. I'm not, unlike Ngozi, I'm not the most technological. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. And Ngozi, I want to give you a big thank you for your wonderful session today. It was so engaging, so informative, and really gave us some fantastic ideas that we can all use with our students. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. If this is morning for you, or afternoon, and a great evening if it is your nighttime. So thank you, everybody, and bye for now.
Thank you. Goodbye.